social justice. On August of 2014, he was deeply shaken, like many of us, by the death of Michael Brown, who died less than 7 minutes from his home. Brendan made his voice heard at St. Louis University High School by establishing and running a very effective social justice group named Student Teachers Association for Racial Study, or abbreviated STARS. Brendan was so impassioned that he gave a speech about his personal journey for social and political justice at the St. Ignatius Family Teaching for Social Justice in front of 1,700 people. It's a corny joke at this point, but I've been joking that if he can handle 1,700 people, he can definitely hold us down today. He currently interns for the local Urban League, working on various projects to serve the city of St. Louis and its people. Without further ado, please give him a welcome, everybody. Brendan Underwood.
Good morning, everybody. It's going to be, before we start our student leader panel, I'd like to have the panelists introduce themselves, starting from the farthest to my right and working their way toward me. Introduce yourself in a short bio.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor.
Can you please speak into the mic?
Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor Jackson. I am a student at St. Louis College of Pharmacy and the current president of their Black Student Alliance.
Hi, I'm a 2016 graduate of Webster University and former president of the Association for African American Collegians.
Hi, guys. I'm Larry Sadler. I'm currently a junior here at SLU, and I am academic chairperson.
Hi, I'm Brandi Fields. I'm a junior at UMSL, and I am the current president of Associated Black Collegians.
Hello, everyone. My name is Benjamin Hayes. I'm currently a sophomore here, and I am one of the senators for the Black Student Alliance.
From hashtag Occupy St. Louis to hashtag Concerned Student 1950, student activism has become central to discussions of equity and inclusion on college campuses across the nation. The work of student activists has shed light on historical and contemporary issues, from racial and gender legacies to recruitment, admission, and retention, to faculty diversity and tenure and promotion. Student leaders are asking questions and initiating dialogue for equity in the 21st century. This is our second student panel, and I want to pose this question to the panel. How do you balance student life and other activities with your activism work? And this is it's an open question to anybody on the panel to answer.
I'll go first. Basically, my key would be to set a schedule and stick to it. If you know you have an event that you're doing, kind of like to push forth dialogue about racial tensions or gender equality issues and stuff like that, make sure you get all the other, class work and stuff like that out the way so that you can, you can perform your best in that space as well as in the academic space. So just make a plan and stick to it is all I have to say about that.
And just to follow up on creating a schedule for yourself, also creating time for yourself in the midst of all of that, it can become very emotionally draining because you're doing so much work, but taking that time out for yourself, self-care, is very important.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of both of these guys. You definitely have to find the time for yourself, and it also comes with like finding your niche. Finding your people. Who do you go to? Who can you go to gain support and things like that. And I think things on like the activism side, they'll like tie in together. Once you get that whole like, personal, aspect of it going. So.
My experience was a little different in terms of trying to balance an activism life with a student life. I ended up putting more emphasis, and I had a lot more passion and emotion towards the activism side, and I wasn't having any of my needs met, and such as like, and I'm a psychology and English majors. So in my classes, we weren't really talking about the things that were happening to black people here in St. Louis and across the nation. So when I was struggling in class, in terms of like seeing on Twitter, for example, somebody else just got shot in a different state or something happened with the cops in Ferguson, I'm listening and talking about books about Jane Austen and stuff like that. So I really started disconnecting to the classroom. I wasn't really caring so much about what I was learning because it wasn't really helping with the here and now, and more of what can I do to help the community in the future. And I was more concerned with what was actually happening now. So I ended up having less of a balance and more of a focus on the activism life, which I wouldn't recommend, but it was kind of a struggle since my needs weren't being met in the classroom.
Okay, so I think for me, with being at the College of Pharmacy, first of all, it's a very close-knit circle with students. And like she was saying, we didn't have those options or those chances for a conversation about everything that was happening outside of the 4 buildings that we have on our campus. So it was important for me and other students like me to create a space for us to talk about everything that's going on. So that's actually when Ferguson happened. That's actually when our Black Student Alliance got started. Because it's never been a history of many black students at St. Louis College of Pharmacy. But now we're at the most that we've ever had in the 150 years that Stillcop has been around. So it was a perfect timing for us to start this and to create a support system for the black students, not only academics-wise, but also personal, because I don't think a lot of our peers understood how much things like this affect us. Because, like, for me, I stayed 20 minutes from Ferguson. So that's something that that area is something that I passed by for the past 22 years of my life. So that's an area that I know and an area that I grew up in. And I had people coming up to me asking me questions like, are you safe? Are you okay? And I'm like, yes, I'm fine. Like, the protesters don't scare me. Like, this is normal. I'm more afraid of the police that I see outside of my job when I get off work, or the police that I see in their SWAT gear riding down West Florissant, or even not being able to ride down West Florissant to get home. So being able to create the Black Student Alliance and to create a space for students that are like me and have grown up in that area or somewhere close was very important for my activism and for my academics, because that gave me a space to not worry about it while I'm supposed to be worrying about studying.
I know each of you practice your own level of activism on each of your respective campuses. What I want to ask is, what kind of reception have you found from other students on your various campuses towards your activism? And how do you think we might change the opinions of those who do not see the need to make the changes that are very much needed on each of your campuses?
So at my school this year, after the Mizzou protest happened, it started kind of a movement on our campus that we decided there's a number of things that our black students, both as a part of the association I was president of, as well as just black students in general, had been asking from the administration, from as far as like 2 presidents before me, as well as back in the 60s, just things about scholarships and having more access for students, making sure black students were actually graduating, and a number of things that we kept asking for that the administration had never met. So after the Mizzou incidents happened and they were able to successfully get rid of their president, we kind of were inspired, and our administration, especially our president of the university, was, I think, afraid for her job, so she decided to reach out to students preemptively instead of waiting for us to do something first. The only thing was she was only trying to do it on her own schedule, so we weren't getting time to come together and figure out what exactly we wanted and were trying to ask for, which made us react even more, probably not in the light that she was trying to meet us with or be preemptive. So we ended up making a list of demands, which a majority of were not new issues that black students at our campus had been asking for. After we presented them with 30 people. We stormed a meeting that I was supposed to go to alone as president. I brought 29 members of my organization with me, all dressed in black. The administration was really surprised. The other people in the room were sure, student government presidents and other student leaders around campus weren't really, they were surprised. And we also brought the newspaper, which the administration wasn't happy with as well. But after our demands came out, there was a lot of people on campus who weren't black students who just didn't understand, and they were really upset. They thought that we were asking for things that were stupid. They didn't understand why we were asking for scholarships for us. They kept making it about themselves and saying that, like, oh, black students aren't the only ones who need money to pay for school, which is true. But at the same time, there's also just harder access for black students to get into school, and especially harder for black students to actually finish. And there was also, we ended up having our student government and my organization partnered together to basically have an open dialogue with the student body about what was going on and why we were asking for what we were asking for. And a lot of the aggravation and frustration we were getting from other students who weren't black on our campus were just like, they were upset that they weren't a part of it and that they didn't have any voice, which particularly they weren't really seeing that as black students, we were at the very bottom of the totem pole. They didn't care about what we needed and what we were getting at. They were upset that they didn't get to be a part of it. So it was really frustrating.
Any other panelists wants to make a comment?
As far as reception by students on campus, I mean, here on SLU's campus, I'm pretty sure most of y'all have heard about Occupy SLU. And from Occupy SLU, we basically garnered a list of demands called the Clock Tower Accords, saying we want like sort of like increased enrollment and like scholarship opportunities for black students and stuff like that. I feel like this past school year, which occurred after the Clock Tower Accords were passed and all of that, I feel like that's kind of almost been, put on the back burner. And like in terms of student reception, I feel like it's very muted on campus. Like when something happens, like in like a Mizzou or another black person gets shot, you don't really hear a lot of white people talking about that, a majority of the campus talking about that. It kind of just gets, swept under the rug. And like if it's brought up in the class, it'll be like an awkward silence or something like that. So in general, I feel like the general reception by the SLU community, like its students in particular, has typically been something more akin to apathy. And so I feel like it's just been like students of color and like the Black Student Alliance being that voice, trying to speak out to the SLU community and working close with administration or putting stuff out on our social media feed, kind of just trying to keep the general population engaged and aware.
I would say the same for the students at UMSL. I feel as though it was kind of muted as well. So it was our job last year as the exec board of ABC to get our members engaged and aware and to have them utilize their voice. We set up a meeting right after the Mizzou incidents occurred and took down some of their concerns because we had planned to meet with the chancellor, and our goal was to create space for us to sit on boards with the higher ups so that we can have our voices heard, because of course we could tell our professional faculty and staff our concerns, but after that, nothing really occurred or nothing really progressed. So we created a space. It was successful, and now I sit on the Chancellor Cultural and Diversity Council, as well as the new provost search that we're having this year as well for the university.
So I want to ask, what have you guys done personally, or what do you plan on doing to make sure that future African Americans coming into college or your college campuses feels more welcome?
Something that I've done, it's pretty simple. I join the Black Student Alliance. It's it's pretty simple as that. Because when I came into SLU, I really didn't feel in my place or anything like that. And my sophomore year, I also felt like this. But just seeing something like the Black Student Alliance, and just being a part of a sort of group of people, who want to bring about change, not just like for ourselves, but for others as well, as you'll see like through our various like partnerships. I think that's like been like really, really big for me.
I think for me, first was accepting the nomination to be the president this year for BSA. Although I've been there since we started 2 years ago, I think deciding to be president was a big step because I want other students to have the same support that I have. And I think I expressed this to my e-board members last year when I felt like I wasn't really a part of the College of Pharmacy culture or a part of their life until we started the Black Student Alliance. Like I actually had people like more than just my best friend to talk to about everything that's going on around me. So I had people that understood where I was coming from and people that even if they didn't understand, they would just listen to me. So I think it's important for what we're doing this year because we're trying to plan it out that other students feel welcome and feel like the Black Student Alliance is something that they want to be a part of and want to last forever and ever once we leave. So for us, that meant having more events, having more talks, having something that reaches out to everyone, that pulls them in to say, yes, the Black Student Alliance does something for me. Because we have people that don't really see the need for the social aspect of having a group of people to talk to. They want the Black Student Alliance to be more of a service kind of organization. So for us, that means making plans as future health professionals, making plans to go out to different clinics and stuff and maybe doing like immunizations or just testing blood sugars, looking at blood pressures and stuff like that, just any kind of thing that would let a student know that BSA reaches or meets all of my needs or meets something that I want, that I feel like I am lacking from getting at the College of Pharmacy as a whole, but the Black Student Alliance makes up for that.
I would say the same thing. So when I first arrived at UMSL, our Associated Black Collegians only consisted of 25 members or less. Over this past year, we really focused on the social aspect to get our name up and let students know that there's an organization out there for them. But I put out a survey at the end of the year to see what students really wanted, and basically they wanted something more than the social aspect of the organization. So the goal for this year is to get back to the basics as to why we were created in the first place, serving the community that has served us. So, reaching out to the Black community, giving back to the kids when it comes to things like school supplies, pretty much getting back to the basics of why ABC was created, because the times that it was created back then are similar to what we are experiencing now. So we really wanted to embrace the Blackness of our students, and that's how we're going to do it this year.
So this year, we started working on a program. A number of schools actually have this, but I know not all schools have it. Basically creating a Black student orientation as a part of our orientation weekend, which I think is something that we needed desperately. I don't know why we didn't do it sooner, but our Black population, similar to Stillcops, has been growing every year. So basically just having a session talking about basically the Black student organization as well as the African student organization on our campus, getting students in connection to faculty members that are going to be support to them before school even starts, as well as like faces of older students as well as past students that they can come and talk to, just hitting them before the student fair that typically happens at our school the second week of school, and hitting them before school even starts and maybe before they even start experiencing just what it's like to be in a white institution where you're predominantly the minority and you're going to be dealing with a lot of ignorance. We also started just doing more things of, since there's a number of schools that have celebrations for MLK Day or MLK Day weekend. Our schools never had anything, so we always go to other schools, or we go into, since our school is set in Webster Groves, we go to Webster Groves to kind of have those needs met. But this year we're having a dinner, we're having an awards ceremony. In addition to the orientation, we already, the current president of our association actually started sending out letters this weekend to all the Black students, basically just letting them know who he is, introducing himself, and letting the students know what the organization is before they even hit campus, on top of being orientation leaders, so that during the time that they're on campus, outside of the orientation experience, that they're already knowing our faces, so that they know once school starts, hey, that's a person I can talk to, and oh, the Black student organization, you can tell me about it. So just kind of making sure that they know there's places they can go, as well as both within the club, as well as just outside for academic needs as well.
I would say in terms of making African American students more welcome on campus, I definitely say join the Black Student Alliance. Because I remember when I first got on campus, I was wondering where would I fit in, how would I, kind of assimilate to the campus. And with the Black Student Alliance, I found my niche, my place to belong, I guess. And this year, we're kind of drumming up the social aspect of the Black Student Alliance. I mean, we already have a lot of programming and services that we like to provide to the students on campus, but at the same time, we want to, be able to just, sit and talk and joke around with other Black students and stuff like that. And so, working towards that, we are currently constructing like a Black space on campus, kind of like almost like a BSA headquarters, if you will have it. Just where students can kind of hang, or if they want to sit and work. It's basically just like a commons area where you can congregate and fellowship with other fellow Black students. So I just feel like having that space is very needed. And I mean, as far as feeling welcome, I know this might sound kind of idealistic, but I mean, that also falls on the majority of campus as well. So like other white students and whatnot. And I mean, it would be nice if they had a little bit more of an understanding of, I guess, Black experiences, and like how Black students kind of perceive things. And that would also go a long way towards people like me feeling welcome on campus.
And you guys are all very active, and I can tell that from your responses. But in your activism, do you find time to expand that to the community around your colleges and around your universities? And if so, in what ways?
Yeah, and also with like previous boards, I mean, there may have been, just a small presence of, community outreach, but I could just see that, there wasn't much. And so something that we're doing this year is like, community. That's sort of like, really maybe like tied like for like the number one thing we're trying to do this year.
Can you speak a little closer to the microphone?
Sorry about that. Yeah, community outreach is really something we're trying to, make a focal point during the school year. We have a few events like books and breakfast, things like that, in which we go to various like churches and things like that, and make breakfast for the kids and things like that. We actually also have a new event going on. It's called BSA Summit, and pretty much what that is, it's sort of like rounding up, all these community kids from these surrounding schools, and sort of bringing them up here to SLU, just so they can, see sort of like what they're going into as far as college goes and things like that. But yeah, it's like it's like far too often, like here at SLU, at least from my perspective, it seems like Make a Difference Day, which is our like big like service day throughout university wide. It seems like that's like the biggest sort of, you know, event, if you will, like, you know, for SLU as far as community service goes. And I think that needs to change, man. Like, definitely, like, you know, we need like way more community outreach, you know, because like we're right here, you know, and everyone else is like right around us. It's like, you know, they can't help themselves, you know, so.
So in my experience, my organization has been having a program basically working as mentors at an elementary school in the north side of St. Louis called Ashland Elementary. It used to be one of the worst elementary schools in Missouri, but it's not there anymore, thank God. But basically, we've just been going there, helping the teachers in the classroom, getting to know the students, and just connecting with them on a level so they can see not only just black students who are in college, but as well as being able to interact with us and be close with us in a way that they can't be necessarily with their teachers. But I know one struggle that we had in particular was after Mike Brown died, there was a number of colleges that came together within the St. Louis. It basically started this club called the St. Louis Students in Solidarity, which is basically kind of like black student organizations as well as just students who wanted to do something in St. Louis who are on college campuses. So we did a number of actions on our campuses, but the one thing that we really struggled with and we started fighting internally as an organization, especially with other colleges, was just what about our connection to the community? What are we doing about the connection to the community? How are we helping the community, or should that even be as a part of our mission? So I don't know how divided we were on the issue, but I know we had a struggle in particular with WashU students, not with their black student organization members, but more the white students who had joined STL Students in Solidarity, because they weren't really about the community building, community helping. They were more, what can we do on our campus with our issues? And they really weren't going to, we would have meetings bouncing around from campus to campus. They were only going to meetings on their campus. If the meeting was on another campus, we wouldn't really see WashU numbers, like 50 people in a meeting. That would never happen. And they were really, I'm sorry. But yes, no, we really struggled with that. And so we had a problem just trying to we ran out of cars probably the second or third year into our mentorship program. So it's been our mission just to get more people within the city to go and help at that school. So we would try to be like, oh, well, this is a program we're already doing, or other black student organizations would be like, hey, you know, let's do this program and let's do that. But the WashU students really weren't about that. So eventually the club just fell apart and went defunct as more WashU took over it, and we weren't able to really agree on a mission. And another thing was our black student organization was also doing this thing. We were going to this, it was a community kind of club that was started by the Webster Grove superintendent called the Alliance for Interracial Dignity. So basically it was a bunch of older white people in the community coming together and talking about race issues. And after Mike Brown died, there was literally a room like this could be filled as before. There was maybe 20 members actually going. And so we would go there and talk about our issues being black students in the Webster Groves community, that they were able to maybe come from a better place and be like, okay, we deal with racism in our community. Who knew? Because they really thought that there was no racism in their community. And basically just help them do more things with their own black community, not just the black students who were in their community, which was really cool, but it also kind of sucks because they were doing more about their black population than our own school was doing about their black students. But it was a good experience overall, both those programs.
Any other panelists want to comment on the question?
Yeah, okay. So I think for us, it's important. The first 2 years, we focused more on ourselves and establishing ourselves on Still Cops campus. So now this year, and also along with still trying to establish ourselves, also reaching out to those communities that most of us come from. So I am a product of St. Louis Public Schools, and I think it's important that me and my colleagues all go and talk to these students, even not just St. Louis Public Schools, but maybe even the county schools or something like that. Just my dream in its entirety is just to go talk to every high school student about pharmacy. and tell them why it's important to me and why like maybe it should be important and why they should consider it as something to go into when they go to college. So along with wanting to reach out to high school students and stuff, we also, like I mentioned earlier, going to those low-income communities where they have the clinics and doing immunizations, or just doing health fairs and stuff, just going in and talking to these people and showing them that there are black students in the healthcare field, and that we are trying to make a difference, and we're not just going to school just to leave, we're going and staying. So like I have a lot of people asking me now, since I'm getting close to almost being done, what do I want to do when I graduate? And when I tell them I want to work in a community pharmacy, they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, what? You want to deal with people? Why? Why do you want to do that? And I'm like, because it's important to me to make those relationships with my patients. So right now I work in Jennings at the Schnucks Pharmacy. And I mean, I deal with some really interesting people every day I'm at work, but I love it because being able just to talk with those people and those people knowing my name and me knowing their name is something that I think is important to being a pharmacist when I graduate in 3 years. So to me, wanting to pursue community pharmacy is not just because of the money. It's because I get to interact with those people that come from the same place I come from. So that's just one part. And the other portion, I think, with us reaching out to our communities, we are currently looking for a chief diversity officer on our campus, because unfortunately for the past 1.5 years, we have been without a person in charge of our diversity and inclusion program, which is kind of mind-blowing, seeing that our numbers are increasing with diversity on the campus. So I am serving on the committee looking for this person, and so I've been telling all my committee members it's important to me that this person is willing to reach out to students, but also willing to reach out to our community, because the College of Pharmacy is right in the middle of all of these hospitals. So for what reason would we not reach out and go to these different hospitals and talk to all these people, and we're right here? Like, it makes no sense. So whoever I feel we get in this position, they have to be willing to service the community that is around us. And maybe not even just the hospitals, but going down the street to the Walgreens that's at Kings Highway and Natural Bridge that nobody wants to go to. Crossing the Delmar line that nobody wants to go past, that we tell our students every day when they come not to go past Delmar. For what reason? I don't know. But it's important to me that whoever this person is, they understand that these students need to realize that it is more than just these 4 buildings in this world, and they are going to have to interact with all different type of people that come from all different backgrounds.
And now we're entering into our Q&A section. If anybody from the audience has a question, please go in the center aisle and ask the question or comment toward the panel. Yeah, just go to the mic. Yeah. Hey, check if it's on.
Really? That's okay. All right. Okay. My name is Shelly Jackson. I'm here to support my daughter, Tyler. I'm really impressed with what you all are doing. One comment or suggestion I would make would be this panel, all of you all stay together and do more together within the community. I was just talking to my mother and hearing you all talk about the things that you want to do within the community. One suggestion that my mother made was, we talk about back to school supplies and all of that. But what we don't realize is that a lot of times students, college students, don't have the funds to be able to buy back to school supplies. So there may be something you all may want to think about doing is a back to school fair for your campus, because you'd be surprised at how many people don't have. You take for granted that because they made it into SLU or they made it into St. Louis College of Pharmacy or wherever that they have it, and that's not necessarily true. And then the other thing would be, Taylor was talking about being able to go into the high schools and talk to the high school students. I think that's something that you all should do together. Reach out to the different high schools, reach out to the principals, and be able to go into a different high school maybe once or twice a month so that they can see, hey, it's somebody that looks like me that's in college and they're in SLU. They're at St. Louis College of Pharmacy. They're at UMSL, and they don't have to just settle for attending Lincoln or attending, Missouri Western. And I'm not knocking any of those. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. A lot of times we settle for, I didn't want to say less, but yes, we settle for less because we think that we can't get in those schools, and you all are a prime example that you can do it, no matter what school you come from, what school district, because people always say, oh, I don't want to send my kid to Riverview because they're unaccredited. The thing about it is, school is what you make it. No matter where you are, it's all about what you make it and how you see yourself and wanting to move forward. So, good job.
That's crazy. You actually said Riverview. You actually said Riverview Gardens. I hear you wholeheartedly. I went to Riverview Gardens, kindergarten through junior year, and I graduated from Confluence Prep, which is downtown. So I know what you mean about just like kids like selling themselves like short and things like that. As far as what you said about the sort of like going to the high schools and things like that. I'm not sure. I touched on it earlier. Like I said, I know Black Student Alliance here. We have the Black Summit, and that's exactly what that is. Going to all these like surrounding high schools and things like that, and reaching out. It's sort of like a field day almost, like we see kids like going outside and like hanging out, but instead they would be inside like the classrooms and touring the dorms and things like that, because believe it or not, like SLU doesn't have a lot of black kids come up here and like take tours of the campus and things like that. You'll see your little white kids up here doing that stuff. But yeah, it's true. Like far too often, you don't see like black kids up here doing it. So that's one thing that like we're definitely like we're doing. I think the first one is scheduled in October, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah.
And also the Associated Black Collegians at UMSL. Every spring we have our high school step show that we put on to introduce the kids to the college atmosphere, as well as our high school tour that we do around the St. Louis public schools. And we go around and talk about ABC, talk about UMSL. We also host them at tours, or we host tours with them at the university. There's also a black male initiative that is happening starting this year to introduce those students also to black faculty and staff, as well as black students, and show them that there are people who look like them that can succeed and can be in the fields that you want to be in.
Thank you for that comment. Next question.
I'd like to give some suggestions to you all as students. First of all, look at your student population, and look at the population of the minority students there. Also look at your graduation rate, because everybody that comes to college will not graduate, and somebody needs to tell you that. The other thing is, how often have you felt unprepared when you got to this college campus? Thank you.
I mean, I'll take it. You got it?
Go ahead.
I mean, to what you said about being unprepared, the very first day I set foot on this campus, I felt unprepared, which is sort of like why I'm in, the predicament I'm in now. Like, I just used to look at all these other kids, who had such great educations, way better than mine, far better than mine, and I'm just like, man, like, I mean, I just feel out of place here, like I don't, feel like I can succeed. But I think as a student, at least I try to just sort of like silence all of that doubt, to try to like throw it away, because it's up to me to believe that, like, I'm just as good, if not better, than my counterparts, sitting in the classroom with me. And as a black man, I mean, like, that sort of like should push me to to go above and beyond. Like I sort of like maybe it's a bit more urgency, for me as a black man, to try to go out there and succeed, sort of like prove all the doubters wrong, like, so to speak.
I think, okay, speaking to when it comes to being unprepared, so I actually, going into college, I think a lot of people expected me to be, like, ready and to know how to study, to know what to do, to pass my classes, because I graduated from Metro Academic and Classical High School, which is supposed to be it has a history of being one of the best high schools in Missouri. But actually, when I got to Steel Cop, my grades weren't horrible, but they were not nearly as well as they could have been. And I think for me, and what I noticed while talking to people in the academic support center and stuff, I noticed that a lot of our black students, at least on Steel Cop's campus, they don't take advantage of the resources that they have there. And for me, I think it's coming from a fact of when you come from doing so well in high school and doing so well in middle school, elementary school, all of that, you don't know how to ask for help. So I'm like, I didn't get a tutor until my spring semester of my second year at Steel Cop. And it was really just because, like, I was just afraid. I'm like, I don't need help. I got this. I can just, like, this was just one bad test. I'll do better on the next one. Realizing that I'm staying this and we at the final now. And you're not doing better, Taylor. So you have, like, for me, it's important that to let all of these black students know that that these people here that are on the campus, that they're here for you, despite what a few professors or a few other students may feel towards you. Most of the college wants you to succeed. So you need to take advantage of every resource that they're giving to you, rather that be free tutoring services, office hours, or whatever it may be, or even just somebody to come and talk to about your problems and help you figure out a plan so you can do better on that next test, or you can do better in the next semester, because this semester has ended. So for me, I also work in our academic support center, so I know all of the resources, and people, like, the students see my faces, so I tell them, go back there and talk to the lady that's over tutoring service. Go back there and talk to the lady that's over mentoring. Go back there and talk to the lady that's over the disability support program, because maybe you just need extra time on your test because you can't focus in a classroom with 100, 200 people. So you need another space to do better. Because I learned from myself, like, even though I came from a really good school and everybody expected me to do well in school, that wasn't the case. And so I have to take every resource that is given to me to do better and to make it through the program that I have put myself in.
I have to end the response to that question there. Can I have the next question? Can I have only one panelist answer this next question, just for the sake of time?
Hello, my name's Roy. I want to acknowledge you all for being here. I mean, you're our future, and I'm really impressed. How's Webster College, my alma mater, 1972? My bill was less than $10,000, if you can believe that. I know. So I think Ms. Jackson touched on it, and Ms. Fields. I guess plea to you is, do you have anything in the works to really reach out to like the community, the children in the community? Like last year I was involved with a pastor down here in South St. Louis in a school, Monroe School. It's an elementary school, and these children, it's dismal. Their lives are just really dismal. They have no resources. And I guess my dream is that like we can reach out to those people and, you know, provide role models, tutoring. I mean even going into the juvenile hall. I mean, that's what I want to do. And I just will leave it at that. I think, you know, y'all can take it from there. Thank you, Father Brown.
So the Associated Black Collegians at UMSL, I work for E. Desmond Lee Write and Avid program. It's a tutoring and mentoring program for St. Louis Public Schools. And I've worked with my boss this past semester on starting a mentorship for ABC to get involved in those schools, as well as offer our members positions as tutors, so it could benefit both ABC and E. Desmond Lee. And so that's going to start this semester. We're offering tutoring positions in the different schools. I also talked to one of the principals at Central Elementary to get in there and start doing mentorship programs from anywhere to being a volunteer at lunch or just mentoring one-on-one, or setting up a club after school and in regards to like gardening club or math club, you know, just being there for the students as a student and showing them that, you know, I'm here and I look like you, I could do this as well, you know.
Thank you for that question. Next question.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This question is addressed to anyone who would care to respond. The United States of America is at the 16-year point and climbing into the 21st century. The question that I pose to you, where do you see the black family in the road ahead, educationally, politically, and economically?
Yeah.
It's like, can we hold and come back to that question?
That's a really fantastic question, sir. And I thank you for it. So the black family, you know, how we progress. I think that starts, you know, with the with us, you know, as youth. You know, we have to, you know, start investing, you know, in like, you know, businesses and things like that, you know, that are right here at home. They said this, you know, on the previous panel yesterday. Yeah, just like investing in sort of like these surrounding businesses, you know, and you know, instead of just going to Bank of America, how about try your, you know, your local credit union and things like that. Educationally, you know, we, you know, see a lot of people send their kids off to these private, you know, high schools and elementary schools and things like that. I mean, like, and I don't think that's, I mean, necessarily always the answer. I think at home, you know, parents, you know, to be frank, parents need to give a damn. You know, I mean, I came from a community, you know, parents like weren't in a lot of these kids' lives, and I just didn't get it, and I've even experienced that, you know. So, you know, definitely, it's there's a little bit of onus on the parents, and we also have to get involved. You know, go out and vote. You know, things like that. Be involved in like, you know, the laws and things like that that are going on in your community. I think you'll see a lot of growth like within the black family, like you say.
Thank you for that question. Can I have the next three people say their questions right after one another, and then we'll pose it to the panel? So you ask your question, then you ask your question, then she'll ask a question at the end, and then each panelist will decide which one they want to answer. So just for sake of time.
All right. My question is, what can your student organizations do to help students, black students that that are experiencing trauma in their life. Because you realize when you become a student that as a black student in a black body on a predominantly white institution, you're experiencing college differently. And a lot of that stems from traumatic experiences in your life. It could be from racism on campus or at home, or just if you're from St. Louis, just the trauma that surrounds us in our community. So what could you do to help students that are experiencing that trauma?
Thank you for that question. Next question.
Okay, my question is, I'm from St. Louis, and I graduated from an HBCU, and I also just graduated from law school and took the bar exam. And one of the main things that I see as an issue, I went to a predominantly white institution first, then an HBCU, and there's a huge economic gap between African American students and other students. So as the black student organizations on campus, what do you think you could do if you had a sudden influx of cash, like $100K in your student organization account? What do you think you could do to help your fellow students who are obviously our economic gap is ridiculous? So that's what I want to ask.
Thank you for that question. Last question.
And my last question is, I am a writer, but I'm also an educator. And I am working toward getting a doctorate and being in a school setting. And I want to be in an inner city school setting. But the question is, my guess is you guys would prefer not to have somebody who looks like me necessarily standing up as the person in charge. And I get that. But I want to do my part. So if I am involved in doing these kinds of things, what do you want from white teachers and white educators that, how do I bridge that gap beyond going through the process? I mean, I do all the education that involves African American studies, and I surround myself with African American friends and family members and connect and African family members from Africa. One of my cousins is Botswanan. But I'm wondering, what can we do? What obviously there's a lot we can do. But is there something that you need to say about that needs to just be said? Is what I guess I'm asking you to take that stand and make that statement.
Yeah, I mean, I can get to yours first. It's not like at least I don't think like this. I don't sit here and say, oh, I don't want white people, around, in our schools and things like that. But it's like these kids need to, see what's close to home. Believe it or not, they're not growing up with you. They're growing up and around people who look like them. So I don't see the problem with sort of wanting see more black educators and things like that, and counselors and things like that. These kids need someone to relate to, and this isn't to say that they can't relate to you, a white person, but it's just saying that they might relate to me more, just because we go through some of the same common struggles and things like that. So it's not necessarily you may not be doing anything wrong or anything like that. Don't think like that. It's just like I said, these kids it's sort of they know what's second nature to them, and so. But it's good that you're out here and you're at least trying, to find something to do and asking the right questions. But
I would just say to just internally make sure you know the reasons of why you're doing it, because it's not just white educators who have this problem. Black educators can have it too, of wanting to go in urban communities and kind of basically save those areas. And I feel like that's a bad mindset to have just in general for whether it's white saviors or black saviors, just because the issue is so large, and it's not something that you should be going into with the idea that I'm going to help them so much and I'm going to get myself a pat on the back, because I feel like those are the wrong motivations to be going into it. I would say another thing is just making sure well, I don't know exactly like if you're going to be a teacher, if you're going to be more administrative, but just making sure representation both in the classrooms, whether it's the posters on your wall, the books the students are reading, even some of the ways that you're teaching them are ways they can understand, because I also feel like the education system teaches teachers how to teach white students in non-urban, suburban areas, which is a bad thing because students who live in urban areas don't learn like that. They have different issues. They have trauma, like Kayla was saying earlier with her question. They experience life differently. And I would say there's this book called For White Folks Who Want to Teach in the Hood and All You Other, is it people? Something like that. But the first title is For All the White Folks Who Want to Teach in the Hood, and it's a really good book. It just came out last year. But also recommending reading that book because I think it definitely will help things for stuff like that.
Can I have one panelist respond to the other two questions posed? The first one was, how can student organizations help with the trauma? And the second one was, what would you do with an increased influx of money to your respective student group?
I can answer the question on if we had more money in the account and what we could do for students. So unfortunately, we are low on budget for our student organization, which is unfortunate, so unfortunate, because I had a bunch of ideas that I wanted to do for our students. I'm really big on scholarships, and if it was up to me, I would create scholarships specifically for our black students because aid is something that prevents a lot of our black students from coming back. And it hurts every year to see somebody that I created or like I developed a relationship with have to take a semester or more off from school just because they can't afford it. And, you know, they're expected to stay on their studies, but how can you do so if you're working 5 jobs trying to maintain, you know, going to school to stay up on your studies? It hurts a lot. So I would create scholarships. I would create a professional pantry. So a lot of our students, when they graduate, you know, they're left with little to no money as well, and they're still searching for jobs. However, a lot of college students don't have the clothing or the materials they need to prepare themselves for a job interview. So I would create a professional pantry, have someone dedicated to working with our students on building resumes, things like preparing for, you know, interview questions, all of that. And I had a bunch of other ideas in my head, but I can't think of them now. So just things like that we can't necessarily do right now because we don't have the funds for them.
To your question about trauma, currently I'm actually, like, for the SLU community, I'm compiling like a database of different like professors and administrators and just people in the community that students can go and talk to, like when certain events happen or they need to get something off their chest. Like, say you see somebody get killed on social media and you perceive that differently than I get the majority of campus. You feel like, oh, you might feel kind of defeated or like, man, what if that was me or my brother or something like that. And so I'm just setting this up to where like you can speak to like an administrator or a professor or whatnot, and kind of get their perspective on it or kind of like vent to them and whatnot. Also, I'm setting up like a playlist of encouraging songs and stuff like that. No examples right now, but and other like social media feeds, like the hashtag Carefree Black Kids, which kind of trying to, I guess, lighten your mood a little bit.
And that ends our second student leader panel. Please give it up for our panelists.
Great job.
We have SLU gear. We're giving out SLU gear. And if you have a blue sticker behind your seat, then you get to have all the stuff in this bag, and most of the stuff I don't even have.
I got a blue sticker behind my seat.
Congratulations. Our next session starts at, we're going to push it back 10 minutes. Right? Next session starts at 11:25. Until then, just walk around and go to the bathroom.
But the teacher who says, I want you to replace me, you're just that smart, you don't have to say another word about anything except teach the child. And that's all you have to say.
Here's the thing. The reason I raise this question is because I am working on my doctorate, and I've had more than one professor here tell me
Well, then you wanted us to tell you that those professors are wrong. They're wrong. I'm on 16 visitation committees right now.